So ladies and gentlemen, these are our panelists for this session. Please don't put our hands together for them once again before we start. Thank you very much.
So here we have an assortment of professionals from different disciplines, but they do share a lot of experiences, and I'm sure you'll be able to learn a lot from them. So the structure of the panel session will be done in such a way that I have some questions here, and I'll be posing them. Many of them are kind of related to the backgrounds of the person I'm going to ask the questions. Am I audible? So, as I was saying, I'll be asking questions to my esteemed panelists here, and I hope that they will, I hope that you'll be able to gain a lot from their responses. For the first question, I'm going to pose it to Dr. Omar. So, Dr. Omar has a very interesting portfolio and background, and for those who don't know, he has worked in both industry and academia. So that's why my first question looks like, given the theme of this conference, which is building renewable energy professionals, what do you think is the most industry relevant skill that is relevant for graduates transitioning out of the four walls of the university into the industry? Because you've been through that before, you've been there and you've come back. So I believe you are university.
Thank you very much. Before I answer that question, I would like to show, I think, maybe we are here, but on behalf of the committee, I really appreciate the support coming all the way from the university. By the way, he told me that I was his classmate, and I can tell you that he's one of the most intelligent people I have known. And I think for the testimony that we have. So, yeah, this is a very good question, and I think most of the speakers have already touched on this. For me, it's just to reiterate what they have said, right? Looking at it from the point of view of the university, we always say that the honest of the university is character. Remember, we say character first. So I know most of our students here will say, oh, hold their body, just hold statement. But it is what I think speech writing and wisdom writing is a testament to that. You need to have a good character, right? Because if you don't have a good character, you won't have consistency. You don't have a good character, even the learning is too. So it's very important that you have interpersonal skills. You need to know how to relate with people. Because truly, what takes you far, just like as they say, you know, the class is your degree can open doors. What will take you far is the interpersonal skills. You need to be able to build your interpersonal skills. You may be the best in the class. If you cannot communicate properly, you cannot find your way around conversations with people, then you are not going. This is the reality of this. And as far as the energy industry is concerned, I think Mr. Brown will speak much more about that than I can. But, and especially in renewable energy, there are certain skills that are very, very helpful. And I think I don't believe that. I think I told Father once or twice, I don't know if she can remember, that there are certain skills required for you to be able to assess if something is viable or not. And yourself as economists, right? You are engineers, maybe some of you are engineers. And by the way, I think this conference should only be for engineers, it should be for everybody, right? Because energy problem is a problem that affects everyone. Entrepreneur, as a lecturer, even if I'm not, teaching an engineering course, it affects everyone, any business, right? So, but you need to be able to learn certain skills that are required in that industry. So I'm talking about now, I've talked about interpersonal skill, right? Now I'm talking about industry-specific skills, and especially for the renewable energy. And particularly as a chemical engineer, right? You should be able to know economics. You should be able to learn how to assess if a technology is viable or not. Because you can imagine if you're asked, okay, if you're working at a company and somebody asks you, how do I know which source of energy will be cheaper for my company so as to maximize profit? If you don't know how to run economics, you'll be in trouble. Just recently, a person from Niger reached out to me. They were comparing diesel and LNG for their energy source. And Niger is a landlocked country, right? They do not have environment, so they cannot take diesel, they have to buy diesel. Also, they do not have natural gas. Well, they have natural gas because they have some wells, right? But not enough to sustain the industry. So we're trying to see, we're trying to compare LNG and diesel. And you have to look at the whole value chain, the whole supply chain, from wherever it is in Nigeria, transporting it down to Nigeria, taking care of all the equipment required, and then comparing with diesel. If you do not have certain skills, which, like as we said, you can learn online, there's no way you go. So economics is very, very important. And then again, do not forget about the last, I think, skill I was talking about this. Again, I think this is the most boring part. When we teach you in class, you have to understand it. Whether you're in electrical, whether you're in mechanical, whether you're in chemical, those things that we teach you will now propel you to be able to understand even those things that you learn. Right? If you try to learn economics, even if you learn economics, if you don't know how to link it up with your technical knowledge, then it's useless. Right? So when we teach you in class, you pay attention, get a very good CGPA, have very good interpersonal relationship, learn your economics. And then, of course, this is what we're talking about techno-economic analysis, life cycle analysis, and the rest. I think if you can learn those things, you will do well. So thank you very much.
I don't think oil is so I think there's still hope for students to choose one. And me as an engineer, what I know is that there are still scarcity of skilled engineers. People that have interest, the government is very interested, for example, those that have background or research, or any chemical, there are a lot of people that have chemical background and they got trained and become excellent physical engineers. How easy is it to become a physical engineer? It's very easy. But you start here with one. I believe it's just basic fundamentals, right? also material balance analysis that we use in 4. That's in level 2. This could be whether you need level 1 or 2. I don't pass the maybe it's the time to take it on the next video. So, by year 5, definitely I'm going to expose to reservoir simulation. Yes, it will expose you to more first person, a lot of calculations. Sometimes you get even confused. So after having a normal day-to-day class session to lectures, I think one thing we lack, especially in this part of the country, is we have tools, we have access to internet, instead of exploring each part of what we have been taught in school. We end up binary position, not a unit. I'm sorry to say, a lot of people have done TikTok. I'm not saying you should use social media, but you should invest in content like this, like on YouTube, learning more about what the lecturers have exposed you. If possible, you can be able to learn the full truth and analysis simulation in your life. To those that have been exposed to the areas of social science, I think at the end of the level 2, there is science 1. We have a big one session. Make sure you go to the other place. Visual engineering. Those is science in the whole country. It's not really relevant. If I am a lecturer, if I am to be a lecturer, the day of the exam defense, or let me say, IT defense, send me back to the lecture. Reservoir engineers will work hand in hand with a lot of journalists, physicists, facility engineers, reservoir engineers, and also engineers. As a subsurface guy, I believe we have geologists activities, right? Let me not just restrict this advice just to the geology that have interest in specializing in things. Should be able to also react. I can assure you, if you have this sense of ability, you don't need to apply for it. You will come onto the way. A lot of people will say, you currently have 7 years of something like that. It's hard if you don't know something. But I'm very happy when I heard this conference is going to go with the chance to expose shortcuts and advices. Because I can call it shortcuts, it's hard, but not really that bad. Everything. And I think the thing that's not even much of it is dynamic simulation, which I believe some of the lecturers know how to do is if you go close to them, you learn it, right? The soft skills are very important. There is high scarcity of engineers. Anybody that tells you because they're studying chemical engineering or electrical engineering that there's good jobs out there, confidently telling you it's engineering. Just last week, I posted over page job and so that's only one times. Still back to what they have been saying was utilizing LinkedIn is very good for working and functioning. Things that suggested that not just going to but you have to master the skill of how to connect and even how to approach them so that they can respond to you. Just like scholarship happens to hold things like these are two set of old message asking for mentorship. Some people can even be your mentors without communicating with them, check their profile and see the path they go. They also start and congratulations. to graduate after level 6. Or let me say, even if you have not been able to level 6, there's a way you can be boosted to the course. So you see, if you study chemical engineering or electrical engineering, it's really your course. I applied for 500 jobs, 500 before I settled. After that 500 jobs that didn't even invite me to it, I realized that I couldn't craft my CV. So I went to mechanics. It's not about first class or class or whatever. Like he said, because I have to do it's not the best sentence. Telling myself to shop. We were there in Lagos. People who want some of the first class. I'm not saying first class. I've met people that are first class. We talk about it. Those who don't have first class, tell them to have that kind of about working on building the success. And finally, communication skills. Presentation and communication skills. I know you have to know where you come from. There's a lot of challenges. I'm also working on it. I think just like I'm working on it, we need to continue every single day. So the moment you finish that bachelor's degree, instead of just thinking of going for master's, when we have enough partners, for people that want to join the academia, most especially those that have first class and respond to, you can start counting for PhD scholarship direct, which will take you out of a fully funded PhD. Not the way you do a PhD and end up doing an internship. Some of the IOCs, that's all. Another part of it is that here in Nigeria, a lot of people used to say, don't know someone can't get into the industry. It's a big one. My dad is a lecturer. Not even related to engineering for a while, and as here for a while, without knowing anything. First job I had, I didn't apply. After all those series of applications, 500 plus without invitation, I realized that it's the CV. I worked on it. I continued applying. Then I got invited to over 20 interviews for your experience. I understood that I was too good. They are hunting for people that can come and paint money for them. So I'm not bringing anybody. Fundamentals is 100% important. Then what value are you bringing to the table? Because just because you know how to use Petra, CNG, T-Navigator, or any of the IPFC applications, you can end up being a general engineer if you don't know basic fundamentals. You just know how to do. From program management, you can't troubleshoot. So the fundamentals is still. We have been to see where we're in university times. We did talk to you, half of what we do is 80% is not what we do. Because if you don't understand that theory, you can't analyze the results of something. And issues, you can't troubleshoot. So, some people are lucky to have a gap between the graduation. Instead of saying I leverage on emerging technologies, learn data analytics, machine learning, and all these deep learning skills that are emerging. And for those that really have interest in facility engineering, which is one thing, right? Process engineering, reservoir engineering, and for geology guys, for physics, all those geophysics people. Technically, to learn the sources, there is a shortcut. You have to be told. Go to the course. spoken of that there's Tamatara Nigeria Limited. When you apply Tamatara Nigeria Limited, whether you're a soft or a so far as you're intelligent and hardworking, you will train for 3 months with respect to our engineering. That's if you want to do that line. We will train you for facility engineering, 3 months. That's if you want to do that line. If you're a geoscientist and you have interest in energy and engineering, this is also training you in 2 months. Even though if you're a slow learner, apart from the secondary, you are still able to learn. We were exposed to the industry software, hard data, layouts, tools, learn. I can assure you, we were team. Even if you don't team, before you go through some companies will start trying to coach you. That's if you get to make no marketing. I just believe it's a short term. With respect to internship, also, people that are in the corner of children trying to do science can also do that. The interview is cool. If I was exposed to that, science. Well, I think my science told me I was on science. I didn't know my family. I was also science, even before this money. Which is unbelievable in the States. So I was supposed to processing application, doing processing, that's where I really interested is watching them. Then back to programming. Because I think it was 7 years I was studying to end of programming or so. I don't even approach it. Like you said, internship is very important. So we need to help you start out. Now, my mind is wrong. And there is laser engineering. You should learn about it. But it's more expensive. Now, that is around 200,000. You can pay in installments, before installments. Laser is in Port Harcourt. They think that children do science and running the facility. And to boost the confidence, chemical engineers is kind. They train to become reservoir engineers. If you have a way to do NYC, then find out the deal of NYC because using the contract. And I show you what it is. There's extra nice classes. To competitions, because all these businesses and students are free who are so
what you need to be energy industry is a minimum and engineering degree. An engineering degree, if you have it and it is called engineering degree, that is what a lot of companies need. I can give an example of a classmate who graduated from Central School and NBC have turned him into the best mission team. Now, if we are discussing civil engineering, but if he started licensing wells, we are just amazed and saying that, okay, this is not one of us. Meanwhile, he was actually one of us to the very end of the age journey. So, the orientation to a lot of us is this engineering. I have a younger brother that wanted to started his jam 2 years ago, and I just asked him, "What are you going for?" He said, "Computer science." I said, "All right, I'm directing you go and buy green card and change that science to engineering before I even change it." And now he's actually doing it, and he's already having 280 that engineering. So I think the minimum you have, and as I started mentioning earlier when I responded this, there is this kind of interdisciplinary training that you have when you graduate from a typical Nigerian university, that you already understand the basics and you can thrive in any dynamic environment that you find yourself. And yes, civil engineers are often asked this question. There was a time that my reporting line from myself to my line manager up to GM, I report to civil engineers. So there are some cross-functional roles that exist in the industry that all they just needed is your engineering degree and they will mold you into what they want you to be. As far as you go in with the right mindset, the mindset of learning, curiosity, and excellence. Once you try for these things, then the sky will actually be your starting point. Because at a lot of points you will ask, okay, in doing day-to-day job in the facility, well, my company, we have about 18 OMLs, so we have a lot of flow lines, flow stations, and we have a lot of brownfield projects and modifications. So if you will ask me what is my day-to-day work as a civil engineer, I mean, we have a lot of greenfield projects where we build access roads. We are the first people to go to some of the things that are going to be built. So we build the access road, we build the well paths, and we prepare the whole location before the well guys will enter and start drilling activities, provide the shelters. All these things are purely civil infrastructure, and nobody will go in and do it except the civil engineer. And as well, when you talk about brownfield modifications, there are a lot of optimization and bottlenecking, and the bottlenecking that is being done to plants to optimize production and increase efficiency. But sometimes the breakers, the barriers for the project is not just production rules. Sometimes you're just working on the project just to save yourself from the penalty or to comply with the regulations. So all these things, when it comes to projects, we are there and we have beside design office and crisis of all the engineering disciplines, and we carry out in-house engineering activity, both front-end and detailed engineering. In-house with the company and provide the services. So all engineering cost and expense studies is not a waste. Thank you.
So next I'm going to shift to engineering. Somebody has already given us a area regarding leadership, commercial goals, energy industry and stuff like that. So I believe that his presentation made us understand that in the energy industry they are not even just technical roles. As an
Okay, thank you. Okay, you're talking about the non-technicals.
Yes, like
Yeah.
commercial.
Okay. Yeah, so I think, so those just like engineers, I think was in support engineering, it was sort of, usually, especially when you get in as graduate students, you don't really care about this type of engineering you study. In my own company, they will just put you at the same level, you go about each one stream. So you just, you are a process engineer, petroleum, civil, whatever. But you have to have some basics of each of the engineering. So for engineering, I had wanted the question to be, what the engineers will be. So there's something about engineering. Funny enough, I think almost maybe 90% of the world is engineering. I don't know if it's because we are all engineers, but there's something about engineers. Engineers are very, very flexible. They can fit in almost everywhere. We have engineers in the bank, probably doing better than accountants. So just like last year, the executive director of business science, which is all administration, so my own company, was an engineer. So you will have engineers actually working everywhere. But sorry, there is non-engineer here. There are some rules, just like engineers are saying. If you study something not engineering, you probably only go to the detail engineering and so on. So in the energy industry, it's more flexible for the engineers, to be honest. It's more flexible for the, I am an engineer, I did 10 years in engineering, then moved to commercial world, and even though I'm doing commercial, but then because of your background in engineering, you actually see, you do it probably better than those there, because the commercial, you're actually translating some of the engineering. So the commercial, I think, actually is the crude evacuation system and the crude handling of the terminal and so on. So even though it's commercial, but it's a lot of engineering there. And so, to be honest, Fatima, the question, I know I'm modeling your questions a bit, but it's more flexible for the engineers to turn into the roles that the non-technicals naturally take than for the non-technical, for instance, like accountants. You hardly will be able to send an accountant to the field. So in the olden times, in my own company, they used to do that. Not some of the non-technicals, especially in the engineering or oil sent to the field and so on. Professionally in the field, you hardly can turn an accountant to something like an engineer is doing. But it would surprise you that we have someone that studied at the mathematics. He is now doing accounting job, which I believe anything that a mathematician actually can do. I don't know if there is a mathematician here. Engineers can do it. So he's now becoming an accountant. So what I'm just trying to say is, engineers, I think the only thing you can do is medicine. But in terms of opportunity for non-technicals, so many of them, whatever you study, just apply and then there will be places to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm encouraged by that. Next, we're going to have a brief round of questions. Hopefully, it will be much more concise than the first round in the interest of time. So now I'm just going to ask you questions regarding challenges that are related to your technical. So if I can just round up from engineering. So is it very difficult or challenging in the field to kind of harmonize it or translate it into reality in zeros and ones instead of x's and y's?
Okay, so your question is transiting from technical to
Yes, from theoretical to practical.
theory to practice. Yeah, so I think to me the challenge would be, so when you come from theoretical, so theoretical is scientific. That is what you do your calculations, you just see when you see the size of that. When you practice, when you try to, when you go into the industry and you start work, you will see that you do your calculation and it's not just a number, it's not something that is, how do you call this, it now becomes a spectrum. So the challenge is in you trying to interpret that spectrum. So there's something, even in economics, there's something probabilistic and deterministic economics. So usually in the school, what you see in school is, you do exams and then the answer, it gives you a calculation to do, and the answer is whether you're correct or right or wrong. When you go to the industry and you're in the field, for instance, it's majorly that's why you have background, that's why fundamentals are very key and important. In a lot of cases, you won't just see that zero, it's not the zeros and ones, it's in a spectrum. So you have to challenge and sieving out within that spectrum to see what decision is the best for you. So you won't see zeros and ones, you just see the spectrum. So the challenge is see within that spectrum what is the best answer to calculate. I think to me now in very simple terms, that's what I see. I don't know if I'm, maybe too, how do I say it? I don't know if it's so obvious what I'm saying to, especially the students. I know the guys on this side already see what I'm saying. Essentially, the challenge is you do in your school, you do your calculations, you see the answers. In the industry, it's not like that. Whatever you do, you now need to think more. You now need to think more. You have to. There are a lot of more variables in the industry for you to decide whatever decision you want to take. He has mentioned economics. He has mentioned a lot of things. So there are a lot more variables for you to choose. In school, I think they limit you to just a few. But that's the fundamentals you just need to get to be able to navigate through that challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For Dr. Umar, in the classroom, I would like Dr. Umar to help our fresh graduates or our undergraduates or recent graduates to understand whether there are some ways to translate the ideas that they get while in school into projects that can give them a leverage after graduating.
Okay, so the question is, how do I apply?
Help our students or our graduates to identify ways to translate ideas that they get during school into projects that can help them in land position after graduation.
Okay, that's a good question. Let me start by saying that, particularly I think in the chemical engineering department, I think those of you that are here will justify that we usually challenge our students to think about problems, right? Come up with ideas, come up with ideas. We have, I think we do, just like even though this is actually not spread out this book, but we do that, right? I think we do like it. And that means that through the course of your degree, there are certain skills that you have learned. And those skills are important. And I tell students that I teach that some of these skills you are learning, you don't have to apply them to solve engineering problems. It could be any problem, right? That is why, and I think I'm grateful that Engineer Mustafa has already mentioned that in their own company, an engineer happened to find himself anywhere he was anywhere he can solve problems, right? So the reason why this happens is because you learn skills to solve problems. This is what we are talking about. Trying to identify problems and try to find ways to solve them. So you already have skills. If you are in 100 level, I can promise you before you get to 500 level, you will learn these skills. If you are already in 500 level, graduated, I can promise you that you have those skills. It's just up to you to really harness these skills. We have a discussion not long ago with Mustafa and Prof. That there were some guys, just 26 or 7 years old, and they're trying to, they're entrepreneurs. They have, one of them has a certificate background, but the other does not have a background. And then there is just recently also a week ago, those guys wanted to build a plant to produce some foods. And then just recently, I've had the opportunity of meeting one young guy, I think also around 80. He's interested in building an ethanol plant. And somehow he has gotten the loan to build it. And it's not chemical engineering, right? And if you think about it, I'm speaking for chemical engineers, but I know that in every discipline you have processes. Right? And before he builds a chemical plant, he must do the unit operations, the sizing, cost estimation, and whatnot. These things we teach in class. So my point is that you already have, if you are in 500 graduated, you already have the skills. You can partner with such a person. The person has a way of getting the funds, right? And you have the skills. But not only you have the mechanical engineers, the chemical, the electrical engineers, because every project like that is discipline. So you need to learn to work with other engineers, but you already have the skills. And I'm sure the other engineers also have their skills relevant for their own discipline in the particular project. So to answer the question is that you already have the skills and you have the ability to identify problems. Just look around. Just look around. Any problem you see is an opportunity to make money. There's any problem in the society, whether it's East-West, East water station flying everywhere, whether it's people suffering looking for one thing or the other, as long as it's a problem and there's need in the society, then if you solve that problem, you are going to make money, right? As an entrepreneur. So you have the skills. All you need to do now is to reach out to the mechanical engineering firms, the medical engineering firms. Reach out to even entrepreneurs, somebody that has intelligence to identify ways of sourcing funds. So reach out, link up, and I can promise you to be able to deliver enough projects. All you need is collaboration with others. This is what I'm doing.
Access to software for the patents. There's an outsource.
So YouTube it is. Thank you very much. And for Engineer Kelly, fellow applicants that have probably done their internships in the oil and gas industry before, while they were involved in doing internships in other fields due to your civil engineering background. So was there something that you did to make yourself more competitive, or just like one strategy that you can give to people that are not studying or didn't study energy-related fields and they want to get into the energy industry?
So first of all, I joined the energy industry as an experience. I did not join the role to develop those. As I started mentioning earlier, part of the strategy is that you should love yourself. If you want to work in an industry, and energy industry specifically, your class 1 degree or the kind of degree is not required. All interns, it's a multidisciplinary industry that meets every engineering profession that you take. So all you need to do is place yourself to be the best candidate ahead of your competitor. So whatever it is, just you have to map your strategy and then look towards the future. What did I want to become? So whatever it is you want to be, go and check the requirements and then now come and look at the rules. Am I the best candidate? What are the other candidates having? And what will give me an edge, for instance? So that is why I always say that there is no time to waste on everyone. So as you are going out of the walls of this university, chemical and chemical engineers, don't say that I'm going to get a job in NBC or I'm going to share your option. Don't need that. Wherever it is, start and then build yourself, start the industry, and most importantly, when recruitment comes, make yourself stand out as the best candidate. And you can do that through giving quality certifications. Number one is make sure you are registered with the Nigerian Society of Engineers, and when you are due for an actively participate in conferences because the instrument is important. Number two is that Nigerian social media, LinkedIn. And another thing I have not had anyone mention is Nairaland. When I lived in Lagos, I was working for a construction company. All my colleagues in that office, every day when they come, I remember what they do is they refresh their LinkedIn as Nairaland feels. Because Nairaland is like a dome. What Hausawa will say, everything is there, entertainment, gossip, education, tech, and scholarships and applications for jobs and everything. Let's just now NLNG is going to have the interview. Just go on Nairaland, you will see people talking about NLNG recruitments there, dropping pro bono hits and guidance, So all these things, they are the age that we can't stand to compete with our southern folks because they already have access to this information and they have people that are standing and willing to give young people this guidance or information pro bono. I remember when I participated in the NBC 2020. It is by virtue of being in Lagos that I was with the people in my office, so I tried to let me leverage Nairaland. And it was from Nairaland I had access to some of the past questions and some of the manuals, some of the kind of materials that you need to study because I was just blind doing a blind kind of preparation. But then all this kind of information and kind of things that you graduate. So just prepare yourself, get the necessary certification, and get ready for the next job. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very wonderful session. That was amazing. I'm sure you must have seen that, you must have observed that I changed. But I have another place to be in the next 5 minutes. It's very important because I am sure you will advise me to keep listening. So, thank you very much. I think we are supposed to take a group picture for the panelists. And then I want to also recognize the presence of Dr. Abubakar Sani Ali. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Thank you. Please do take the floor. So I think we are supposed to have a question and answer session for this. So please, if we have any question for the panelists.
Za ka ɗauka ku? Ke ma.
Amma ɗauke